Okay, welcome to another SEO Hangouts with Josh Bachynski. Today is May the 28th, and I have some very interesting leaks for you today. Just miscellaneous stuff that I've been trying to get to over the past few weeks that have been leaked by various Google employees and various SEOs of repute, such as myself. I'm Josh Bachynski. Hi. Yeah. So this is where Post Penguin 2.0 was released on May the 23rd or so, May 22nd, May 23rd. And so I know everyone is probably expecting a Penguin analysis, and I've been doing analyses of sites that were hit by Penguin 2.0, but I'm not quite ready to write the verdict on Penguin 2.0 at this moment. And I'm not entirely sure that they're done messing around with it. In fact, I have a very sinking suspicion that them asking so vehemently and often for extra data and please tell us any sites we missed and blah, 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 they might be making some fairly substantial additions to it. So I'm going to hold off until next week anyway before I give kind of my Penguin analysis. Plus, a lot of the sites I've been looking at, they were hit May 22nd, 23rd, so presumably Penguin 2.0, but then they kind of bounced back a bit. So I don't know why that is. It could be because a lot of competitors have been missed, and so the SERPs are kind of recalculating themselves. A lot of the competitors are gone, because they were hit harder by Penguin. It could be because maybe Google's pulling some of that information back. It could be because people are going and disavowing their Penguin links, whatever they think that is, like crazy, and they're essentially negative SEOing themselves, and so we're getting, my sites are getting a bonus because of this. It's hard to say, really. You have to remember, it's not only stuff that happens to your site, but it's stuff that happens to all the sites. And so, those algorithms do take effect, and so if it doesn't hit you, but it hits everybody else, you can see a bonus, that kind of thing. So, I'm going to keep doing my analysis, and I'm going to talk to you about Penguin 2.0 and my analysis of exactly what's going on for next week. And like I said, at this point, it doesn't really seem to be much more than what Penguin 1.0 already looked at and already did. But I do have that's besides the point, because I already have, I have pages and pages of very interesting leaks from Google that I don't want to fall by the wayside or kind of, get not noticed. So while we're kind of in a little bit of we're in the eye of the storm, we're in the eye of the summer SEO storm, let's put it that way, that Google's going to put out. So while we have this little brief period, I want to mention, I'm going to go through all of these little things that I've been trying to get out to you guys for a while. Some of these leaks are very interesting, and so let's get right to it. Okay, so back in April, the ex-Googlers, Pedro and those guys, they put out a report, and I already mentioned a bunch of stuff they said. They said a couple other interesting things that I just want to make sure that everybody noticed. One, they did confirm that every single spam report that you put in the web spam form is looked at within 1 to 4 weeks. So if you're wondering, does anyone look at these? Yes. They are all looked at within 1 to 4 weeks, they said. Not only this, but you can rest assured, they said, and these are people who used to work for Google in the web spam search team, or the Webmaster help team, I believe, one or the other, that they do track every single signal via Chrome. They said you can rest assured if there's a signal in Chrome that they can track, they do track it in aggregate. So a lot of people are wondering, well, how do they get these usage metrics? How do they know who's clicking what, and blah, 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 and how do they know about these social signals when they can't crawl this because it's private or whatever, blah, blah. If they can track it through Chrome, they got it, right? So they said you can rest assured that tracking every single thing that can be tracked in Chrome, they track it. So that's what they said. And I'd be apt to believe them on that score. Okay, then next, Matt Cutts put out a video around the same time, about mid-April. And he said that you can get a manual review from just adding 100,000 pages or so onto your site. If you rank for too much, too fast, you will trigger a manual review. And John Mueller also confirmed on Friday, May the 24th, that they do give special priority to the page 1 listings. So, or the more traffic you get through Google, the higher your rankings are, the more likely you are for a manual review. So the closer you get to page 1, the more squeaky clean you should get and should look and should be and try and be. Especially, and if you go and add 100,000 pages to your site right away that all start ranking for too much, too fast, you're going to trigger a manual review, so you better be squeaky clean in the back end. Okay, the next. John Mueller said in late April, for the disavow text, yes, you need to keep your links in there. The disavow text works like a robot text on your website, right? If the listings are not in there of what links to disavow, they will not disavow those links. It's check to see if link is there, it is. Check to see if disavow file, there is. Check to see if a listing for that URL, no, count link juice. Or yes, disavow is in that URL is in the disavow file, disavow that link. No follow the link, do not pass link juice. So that's how it works, right? So if the backlink URLs are not in the disavow file, they're not going to get disavowed. All right, he also wanted to warn us about Panda. Now, I know everyone has gone penguin crazy, and penguin seems to be their favorite little fuzzy animal right now. However, I would strongly suggest that we don't forget about Panda, because in my opinion, Panda is a far worse beast. Panda hits more sites, harder, for longer, and it is much more of a thorn in the side. And for every single SEO analysis I do, maybe 10% of them hit by Penguin, like 80% are hit by Panda. Everyone thinks, oh, Penguin got me and my backlink's this. And I look and I said, no, it's Panda, right? People just are not liking your site. You have bad usage metrics. You need to improve this, make this better, change this design. Don't make them scroll, make your site faster, blah, 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 blah. That's 80% of my job, is hunting pandas and killing them. Bah, bah, bah. Don't tell the World Trade Federation or the world, the guys with the panda and the logo. I don't know. They'll probably be pissed off or something. Whoever they are. Kambuka. All right. Next. Panda is a site-wide algorithm. And it's the percentage of pages being low that triggers it. So I would guess 50% or more. If 50% of your more pages are not being enjoyed by users who go to the SERP, click on your result, go to that page, don't like it, bounce off it, go back to the SERP, click on someone else's result. If that happens too much on too many of your pages, you're going to get hit by Panda. And John Mueller also released today, not today, May 24th, Friday, that there is a greater and lesser Panda, right? There's a lesser usage metric algorithm, and I suspect this is the one that tracks through the SERP, right? So you'll go down just 2 or 3 spots. I think that's probably the one that works on the SERP base, and if that happens, I believe they also put you in the cycle for a deeper Panda check, where they check deeper on-site usage experience kind of things like time on page, internal bounce rates, returning, maybe bookmarks, who knows. Garbage text on the page. Those are the kind of things that John Mueller and other Googlers in my experience and my experiments have checked out and noticed before for Panda. And that'll give you the bigger penalty, right? If 50% of your pages are this kind of this garbage quality. So beware of the Panda, because it's still an issue. It is still a problem. It is still my white whale. Okay. Okay, so here's an interesting one. I didn't know what quite to make of this and how to manipulate it. Here's a Webmaster Tools tip. Google will sort your most relevant / your quality pages, in their words, your most important quality pages, in your 404 crawl errors. These are your important pages, quote unquote, according to John Mueller. So this is very interesting. This is on the 22nd of April, by the way, if you want to check out the Hangout. He actually said this. So I was wondering what that means. So this is in the crawlers section, I believe, for pages not found, and they will filter to the top because it's not chronological. Somebody noticed and they asked why, and he said, well, because we filter your most important pages to the top. So I'm wondering, what does he mean by important pages? Does he mean the highest page rank? It's probably what he means. Of course, it's not going to be the highest reported page rank in the toolbar. It's going to be what they know to be the most important page in terms of your traffic and whatnot. So that's probably a good bet. That's also your highest ranking pages, and it's a good bet that's what Google likes and thinks is a good page. So so I was thinking, how can we use this? So there's all kinds of things that we could make from this. 1, make sure that no pages show up in there. 2, make sure your index page sure as heck doesn't show up in there, because your index page should not be 404. Duh. 3, if you really want to know what pages Google likes on your site, and if someone wanted to run an experiment, 404 all your pages, and then watch your Webmaster Tools and watch what pages it filters up at the top. That'll automatically tell you what pages Google thinks are your most important, whatever that means. Probably your highest page rank, your most important pages. And then you can sculpt your page rank flowing from the most important pages to the least important pages. And then make sure any new pages you put on the site, you put direct links to them on your highest, best ranking, most important pages. And that filters down. Of course, that's a very drastic experiment and a way to find out. But it would only take a couple days. You just do it for a couple days, see what Google puts in the Webmaster Tools, then put it all back. Right? It's not going to boot you out, shouldn't boot you out of the index if you do it that quickly. Of course, there are other ways to tell. You can just make an educated guess. You can say, well, I pointed all my link juice at the index page, where I presume is the most important page. But not always. Quite often, Google will be like, I'm not going to rank your index page no matter what. Now, usually this is because it doesn't have the content on it they think the user wants from this usage metrics algorithm, right? But it could be other things. It could be their semantic latent index, detecting that one of your sub pages has far more information on red apples, and so it's going to rank it for red apples as opposed to your index page. Even though you got red apples, buy red apples are the best. I have the best red apples in your title, on redapples.com. So it's up to them what they're going to rank. So that, I'm not really sure what to make of that, but I found that a very interesting, sneaky little leak, and I think there's something there to that, but I have to decide what I think would be the most important one. What if we made duplicates of all the pages and made rel canonicals or 301s to them, and then 404 them, and then see what comes up in Webmaster Tools? That way you don't lose any ranking or any traffic for those days. Well, you wouldn't anyway. It would still send it to you, but you wouldn't be reporting 404 for those days. Anyway, I'm thinking out loud. So you can see my SEO wheels are turning there. But anyway, so just interesting leak. I thought you guys could think about that. Okay. Okay, so also the unnatural link penalty, the manual action they take on sites for having manual links. Just so you know, it is a site-wide penalty that was reconfirmed. It's been mentioned many times by John Mueller, but it was reconfirmed again in April. So that is a site-wide penalty. So the problem is that it's not like you can just delete some pages. I mean, you can delete the pages that all those unnatural links are pointing to, but you'll still have the penalty on the site. There's two kinds of manual actions. Either take a manual action on the site, or take a manual action on the backlinks that are suspect, but they're not sure you made them. That could be negative SEO, and so they decided to be nice for a change and just take a manual action on the backlinks instead. What that means is that they just don't trust them anymore. They're suspect, and they don't trust them. So for that, there's nothing you can do, and there's nothing you have to do. It just means that a bunch of your links have been analyzed by the guys over in India and Google's web spam team, and they've decided that these links are probably suspect, but we're not sure that you made them. It's not obvious that they're obvious manipulation, and so we're just going to devalue these links. You just need to add more links if it affects your ranking. Natural links, of course, natural-looking links as possible. However, if they take a manual action against your site, then that means that you have a manual penalty, a boat anchor having on every page of your site, keeping it from ranking. And that you do need to disavow links. And in my experience, if they have given you a manual action, they probably think a good percentage of your links are suspect. And so if you happen to know that, well, probably, I probably got like 10 real links, and the other 90 links are probably fake links that I made. Well, you can bet dollars to donuts they're pretty good if a person has actually gone through your link profile and looked, and they can find them. And so in my experience, it doesn't make any sense at that point when 90% of your backlinks are unnatural. It doesn't make any sense at that point for you to play this game of disavowing just a few and then submitting for reconsideration request for months and months and months to see if we can finally get the ratio so you don't blow away your entire backlink profile. At that point, you can do that if you like and if it fits your business plan. But most of my customers and most people I know want to get the manual penalty removed right away and just build forward from there. So it makes more sense at that point to do a very aggressive disavow and put in all the unnatural links that are there, starting with the crappiest links, the links that are giving you the least value, and move on from there. And then submit the reconsideration request. If you know it's about 90% of your links are unnatural, then you can assume that around 90% of your links have been found by them, and so that should be the rough ratio. And you just put all those in the disavow file with the domain : specification. But the sneeze. Gonna sneeze? Am I? Yes? No? Yeah, make sure you use the domain colon specification in the disavow file. So it looks like this. Instead of doing redapples.com/somepage/ where my backlink page is .html, you would do domain colon www.redapples.com. And then that way, any link from that site would be disavowed. Now, this is not necessarily the best thing because I have another leak here from the same hangout, or very close hangout. I'm on the 26th of April now. And that this is direct from John Mueller's mouth regarding the disavow file. That he said, and I quote, "This is when you want to use the domain colon specifier in the disavow file." And I quote, "If you think there is no chance for a legitimate link from this site, then use the domain directive," end quote. So that verbiage, to me, is very obvious that if that's the way he puts it, if you think there is no chance for a legitimate link from this site, then use the domain colon directive. If that's how they think that should be used, then clearly they're going to be using the disavow file to automatically no-follow websites that show up with the domain colon too much in too many people's disavow files, right? So if 80% of the people using the disavow file feature in Google all say that www.spammybacklinks.com all specified that URL with a domain colon directive, you can rest assured it's some magic number, 60%, 70%, 10%, I don't know what the percentage is, but if some magic number of people in there, they're eventually either they already are going to use that data, or I suspect over the summer they're going to use that data and mass no-follow all the outlinks from that site. I doubt they would be so draconic, although I've said this in the past and they have been this draconic. I doubt they would be so draconic as to actually give any kind of automatic penalty to myspambacklinks.com, the example site I just mentioned, and all the sites it links out to. Probably what they will do is just say, hey, look at our narcs using the disavow file have all 80% of them have said myspambacklinks.com. They've all specified it with a domain colon directive. That means, in our words, if you think there's no chance for a legitimate link from this site, then use the domain directive. Therefore, they think there's no chance for a legitimate link from this site. Therefore, we're going to mass no-follow all those links, and all the link juice is going to be canceled. The links will still be there. People click on them. They'll still go through. They're just going to remove any link juice from those links, as if they had a no-follow attribute in the HTML. So that's what I think about that, folks. All right, what the heck else was I telling you? Okay, now, what was I saying? Yes, you can have too much content. So regarding page content, you can have too much content to Spider. If you have a lot of content, the Spider takes a long time to get to your site. And yes, it is a problem. It increases your risk for Panda because it increases the number of pages that people can be not enjoying. It increases the number of queries you can rank for, that people cannot find the information they want, that they can be dissatisfied, and that they can go back to the SERP and try something else, right? So just don't add content for the sake of adding content. You have to add content that is going to terminate the search. You have to terminate the search cycle. People look for stuff, go back, go click back. You have to be the terminator. Pun fully intended. You have to say that you have to make it so they say, I won't be back. No, I'm sorry. I was going to try a joke with it. That was terrible. You have to terminate the search cycle. So whatever it is they're looking for, if they're looking to buy red apples, you have to be where, statistically speaking, most people go from the SERP to do that compared to everybody else. If they're looking for a red apples review, you have to be the site that has the best review and that terminates the search cycle. So you have to give it to them above 500 pixels. They don't have to scroll. You have to make your design nice and simple so they can see what it is they're looking for, because people are, quite frankly, quite dumb when it comes to finding information on the page, and quite, ADHD, and they click back and they don't even read what's in front of their face unless it's very blatantly obvious. And your site has to be very speedy and quick and fast as well, of course, because I don't know about you, but if I have to wait 10 seconds for a page to load, I'm clicking the back button right away and going back to the SERP and trying something else. So, yes, the content matters. It is a one-to-one search, SERP, click a result, go to the page. either it terminated the search and you click that, you close that tab, or you go back to Google and do a completely different search, or you close the browser entirely. Those are the things that would tell them that that search was terminated, that this page is the terminator, that it presented the information that person was looking for, or let them do the thing they wanted to do, buy this, register for that, that kind of a thing. So of course, this means you have to know what it is your customers want to do, right? And this means you have to make your design tailored to, heaven forbid, your customers, your end users, and not what you think is pretty and not what your designer thought was pretty. I know it's a shocking concept. It's only been around since 1999, but please forgive me for being glib, but I deal with this on quite a regular basis. And not a lot of people seem to understand this, and so please, again, forgive my glibness. But you don't understand it. No, people just don't get it, and so it really annoys me. But obviously, design has to be tailored to your end users, and quite often they don't want a pretty design. Although everyone likes pretty, but they don't necessarily want a fancy design. They don't want to, especially if it's busy, right? They want a very clear, good use of white space. This is exactly what this page provides. It's exactly what it's labeled to provide, exactly what it does provide, and it terminates their search, whatever it is they're looking for. So if you can't compete, if you can't provide what it is they're looking for, they don't try, because then Panda is just going to punt your entire site out of the algorithm and not just that page, out of the index, not just that page. Although my suspicion is that over the summer they're going to change that. My suspicion, because Cutts did mention he's going to make some changes to the Panda algorithm, make it less draconic. I think that this is what they're going to do, is that they're going to change Panda from being a site-wide penalty to demotion, sorry. Technically it's called a demotion because it's algorithmic. They're going to change it from being a site-wide demotion to just a page-based demotion, so that the pages that are not satisfying searcher intent, satisfying the searcher question, satisfying the searcher curiosity, those pages that are not doing that are just going to fall off. But all the other pages that are going to be fine. I suspect they'll do that. I hope they do that. I pray that they'll do that, because that will make it a lot better for people, a lot better for searchers. Okay. Yes, all the pages have to be quality. Yes. Okay, so here's some other interesting stuff. For those of you who have an adult site, you've been naughty little boys and girls, and you have an adult site, and or you have a site that's adult adjacent, that's not quite an adult site. You don't have to confirm that you are of age to view adult content to be on it, but you sell some kind of adult project, a product. You sell some kind of adult product, right? Some kind of sex toy or some kind of herbal pill or something like that. And so you're adult adjacent. If the algorithm has mistakenly determined you're an adult site and is now catching you, nabbing you in the adult site filter, you can get help. There's a form in the Help Center, the Webmaster Help Center, that goes to the Safe Search team, that if you fill it out, you say, I think the Safe Search filter has nabbed my site and it shouldn't have. You can put it in there and they will decide whether that's the case. Now, in my experience, unfortunately, they're pretty prudish when it comes to this. Sites which, in my admittedly left-wing, somewhat libertarian view, shouldn't have been hit by the Safe Search algorithm. I've put a request in there for clients to get it removed, and I don't hear back, and then nothing changes for the Safe Search filter. So I don't know. Even if you're adult adjacent, they can think that it's just distasteful enough or adult enough that they don't want young kids to see it. Whether this is moral or not, or better or not, I leave for another day to discuss. Okay, please forgive me. I have this cold. All right. Now, also, the parameter tool. So, the parameter tool is in Google Webmaster Tools under Settings, and it'll tell you what URL parameters. So, a URL parameter is, when you see an URL, whatever, redapples.com/? URL equal param equals this equals red equals blah, 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 blah. It's all that junk in there, right? Now, remember, for Google, every single different URL is a different page, right? That has a different page rank, and they will rank for that content. So that means that you can have the same content. Of course, every e-commerce site knows this, painfully has discovered this. But just to make sure everyone's on the same page when I talk about this, no pun intended, that you can have plenty of duplicate pages because you can have there could be any number of URL parameters that can allow you to get the same page, same content. But it has a different URL, so as far as Google is concerned, it's a different page. Now, they automatically have an algorithm to sort through this called their URL parameter algorithm. And you can modify this in Webmaster Tools. You can add URL parameters for them to ignore and no index. So they will de-index, they'll throw out of the index any URL parameter you stick in there. And it'll also tell you what URL parameters they have automatically decided to do this for, because they want to clean out all these, billions and trillions of pages out of their index, because this thing can go on infinitely on some sites, for example. So this is something you really should pay attention to, and good SEOs always do, for two reasons. One, it's a spider trap, right? If you have infinite number of URLs, they can, the spider can just keep crawling those URLs and never get back to the URLs you want them to get back to and crawl, because you've changed them, because you have a penalty on them, because you've made some changes, you want the penalty to update or change, you've changed the content, what have you. So that's a problem there. It's a problem from the other end as well. If they automatically decide to throw all these URLs in the URL parameter tool, that they'll punt anything with this URL parameter in it out of the index, you can lose a bunch of ranking on those pages that previously existed. Not only that, but you can lose link juice. If you had links pointing to these pages previously, I'm gonna sneeze again. Sorry, I have a cold. If you have links pointing to these pages that were counted previously, and they suddenly decide to count them in the URL parameter tool, you can suddenly lose that link juice as well. So, and it's also a quality issue, right? If you have a couple million duplicate content pages, there's no duplicate content penalty, but they will decide what content to rank, and they'll be very draconic in being like, if we have like a million different pages for this, we're going to rank 1, and if the user doesn't like it, or if there's some garbage text on it, that could factor into the Panda algorithm. So that'd be definitely something that you want to keep your eye on. Okay, I haven't even gotten through half of these leaks here. The rel canonical, just so you know, the content for the rel canonical must be the same for the rel canonical to work. It's a little known hiccup for the rel canonical, but if you rel canonical page A to page B, page A and page B have to be like 90%, if not like 95% the same. Otherwise, it is not a canonical version. And I'm told by John Mueller, the rel canonical will not properly work, or you can't expect it to fully work. Now, I've never gone and tested this, but I have tested it to the degree that I've always made sure my rel canonical pages were duplicate, because he mentioned this months ago, almost a year ago now. And I took it as gospel and just did it. And so all my rel canonicals have always worked. And I know because I'm routing link juice through it. And so it works. And these pages rank, so I know it works. So I know that works. I've never actually gone and tried to rel canonical a page that was totally different from another one and see if the rel canonical would work. It would route the linking signals through it. You can give it a shot if you want, and if it does work, hey, great. But that's something to keep in mind, that if you want to be extra aboard squeaky clean, I would abide by that. All right, it's almost 30 minutes, but I will try and get through as many of these as possible. I did the disavow conspiracy. Okay, just so you know, what about the H1 to H5 tags? Does Google still use the H1 to H5 tags? Are heading tags important? The answer is yes. On the 26th of April, John Mueller did report that they do recognize the H tags. In fact, at this point, in my opinion, the H tags are a more important on-page ranking signal than the title. The title really at this point, and he did mention that somewhere else here. I do have that somewhere else in a leak. Yes, on May the 7th, he said that URLs and titles do matter on page, but not the only signal. That content is the main signal. So he's mentioned this before. I've mentioned this before, but titles and URLs are much less important than they used to be. Don't get me wrong. The URL is still very important. The domain is extremely important, an extremely high ranking factor, and as long as you keep your domain above threshold for the Panda algorithm and of quality, it will definitely rank you on page 1, all other things considered. And then also the query, the URL path right after the domain is also a good signal. The title is still a good signal, but for me, the title and meta description are much more, not about a ranking signal, but much more about a click-through signal as a marketing tool to get people to click on your site. And it's really the H1 to H5 tags that Google uses much more for on-page ranking to tell them what that site is about. My standard practice right now, and this is similar to other people in the industry, is to use the URL when possible. It's the strongest signal anyway. If Google wants to know what a page is about, if the page is called red-apples-review.html, they can be pretty sure it's about red apples, or red apples review. And then you could have that in the title, but I wouldn't even waste it. If it's already in the URL, it's a waste to put in the title. So I would put something like 2013's best red apple review, or that's duplicating again, but want to know about red apples, question mark, get the best reviews on red apples here. That kind of a thing. There's a partial match. It has some of the same keywords, but it's a much more enticing thing for people to click. And that's the most important thing. Because I do believe that click-through rate is a ranking signal. I think it's used in Panda. It's hard for me to prove that. I have some experiments I might be able to prove that. But anyway, that doesn't matter. Even if that's not true, even if the click-through rate doesn't help you rank, it certainly gets you traffic now, right? If you have 1,000 impressions for your page on a certain query, and you're only getting a 1% click-through rate, if you increase that to 5%, well, you're getting 400 more or 40 more or whatever it is visitors. You're getting more visitors right now. They're there. The river is there. You just opened up the dam a little bit more, and you're letting more of those traffic through to your site. So do so. And the H1 tag is Google has this kind of romanticized notion of semantic HTML or logical character formatters in HTML. For those of you who know about HTML and know about design. The logical character formatters are the heading tags, all the character formatters in HTML that don't necessarily directly have or weren't made for cosmetic purposes. They may have a cosmetic effect, like the emphasis tag has a cosmetic effect, but it's made to emphasize text. As opposed to the B tag, which is just supposed to make it bold, or the whatever, the I tag or the italics tag, whatever it was, to make it italics, as opposed to EM emphasized, right? So Google believes, from this academic standpoint, that there's a structure to the page. This all dovetails into the micro format HTML format as well, which they do read and they do recognize. And John Mueller did mention on Friday's Hangout, the 24th of May, that even if they're not using all of the micro formats, they're only using some of them now, like review, rating, product, author, things like that. And some of those things do help with ranking. I think author does help with ranking. They are using the rest of it for the knowledge panel, right? So go through, if you have the time, either go through Google Webmaster Tools and use the tool to select your data and tell it what it is. And if you have the time, I would put the micro formats in there, because even if they don't use it for ranking now, they will let you put that into the knowledge panel, and it'll give them the option of showing it in the knowledge panel later, and you can definitely get more traffic from that later. So anyway, finishing up this conversation, they do see the page in terms of structured HTML. So the more you can structure HTML, it's not like a 90% boost. Maybe it'll give you like a 1% boost. But at the very least, it's a very strong signal what that page is about. And I have seen it, maybe 10% of the time, I do see customers where Google has no idea what your page is about because the HTML is so bad, or all the content is in images, or stuff like that. That does happen. Not often, but it does happen. So you do want to make sure that you have good structured HTML. And it's not the most important thing, but having an H1 tag with your keyword in it, and if it's in the URL as well, you don't have to put it in the title, and you can save the title for marketing purposes and get more traffic to your page anyway. So that is my SEO rant for today. I try to keep these no more than a half an hour long. Next week, I hope to have a much more thorough analysis of what Penguin 2.0 is doing right now. Of course, they can change it, and I suspect they will over the summer, but I'll provide it to you. But I wanted to at least provide some of these leaks, because some of them are pretty good, about what's going on. Before we get too far along and they change everything, so it doesn't count anymore. So, okay, so that's my leaks for today. Some of them I found pretty interesting. My name is Josh Bachynski. If you have any questions at all, and or if you're worried about any of the SEO changes I'm going to be making over the summer, because I'm going to be making a lot I would strongly suggest you get an SEO analysis done now. So contact me if you want me to take a look at your site. You can contact me on my email, joshbachynski@gmail.com. You can contact me on Twitter at joshbachynski. You can go to my YouTube at youtube.com/jbachyns, JBACHYNS. And you can also send me smoke signals. I recognize the smoke signals of the Ojibwe and Cree tribes because they're the tribes of Winnipeg, of where I grew up. So send that to me and I will respond. I'm going to drink Kombucha now. Good luck on the SERPs.